The tires crunched over gravel as I steered my pickup through the iron gate and onto the inherited ranch I now called home. For the first time in years, I felt peace stretch across the open land like a sunrise. After nearly a decade in the city police department's interrogations, raids, cases that gnawed at your conscience, I needed somewhere my daughter Lily could laugh without looking over her shoulder. She was only 8, but had already learned the hush of courtrooms and the beep of police radios. That wasn't the childhood I'd promised her, so we left it all behind. The sirens, the city, the shadows. The ranch was our reset. Acres of quiet, backed by woods and kissed by the kind of wind that carried freedom in it. But it wasn't long before that freedom came under threat. Her name was Karen Drummond, president of the Rosewood Bluffs, HOA, a woman with teeth too perfect, rules too rigid, and an ego that swelled like a storm cloud over everything it passed. I first saw her the morning after we moved in. Lily was playing in the front field with Buttercup, her rescued mutt, chasing sticks and letting the wind tear through her hair. I was fixing a fence post when I heard the voice sharp-clipped, already annoyed. "Excuse me, sir." I turned. There she was, marching up the gravel path like she'd been rehearsing for this moment her whole life, clutching a clipboard, wearing beige from neck to toe, like she'd been dipped in conformity. "This property borders HOA grounds," she said, skipping pleasantries. "I need to speak with the owner." "You're speaking to him," I replied. She blinked. "You must be new. This area follows strict appearance and behavior codes that includes child supervision and animal presence." I gestured toward the mailbox, which clearly showed our address outside the jurisdiction lines I'd verified before buying. "We're not in your HOA," I said simply. Her nostrils flared. "Technically, the easement touches shared access. That gives the board the right to regulate disruptive activities." I studied her for a moment, eyes that flicked over everything like a scanner. She wasn't just nosy, she was territorial, and she didn't like not having control. "We're not causing trouble," I said, and turned back to the post. But Karen wasn't one to be dismissed, not by a man, and certainly not by someone she couldn't file a fine against. That week started. First came a laminated notice of non-compliance, IP tied to our front gate, something about unauthorized animal visibility. Then, one morning, Lily came back from the gravel trail crying. Karen had shouted at her for trespassing near the HOA community gazebo, which sat on a hill they claimed as common property. Never mind that it was within walking distance for any child, or that Lily had just been drawing birds in her sketchpad. By week 3, I'd logged 7 passive-aggressive notes, 2 HOA warnings, none enforceably, and a strange woman snapping photos of our barn from her car. Obsession wasn't just about control. It was personal. Maybe it was the badge I kept tucked away. Maybe it was the freedom. Our ranch represented a kind of independence that HOA bylaws couldn't leash. I tried to keep Lily shielded from it, but kids are sharper than we give them credit. For she started asking why the mean lady with her notes didn't like her, why her dog couldn't run near the trails, why everything had to be beige. "It's not about you, sweetheart," I told her. "Some people just don't understand happiness when they see it." But I should have known that Karen wouldn't stop at letters. She needed to win, and to win, she had to control everything, even my daughter. That realization came crashing in one gray afternoon. I was 20 minutes away, picking up fencing supplies from the town feed store when I got the text from Lily. "Daddy, there's a lady here yelling at me. She says I have to come with her. She says she's in charge." My chest locked. My pulse turned to thunder. Another message came through. "She says I don't belong here." I dropped everything, flipped on the dash. Sirens sped like a storm through those empty county roads because Karen had crossed a line you don't come back from. She thought she was dealing with just another neighbor she could bully into submission. What? She didn't know. I wasn't just her neighbor. I was a cop, and she had just made the biggest mistake of her HOA career. I reached the ranch in 3 minutes, flat tire screeching, siren off but lights still flashing, gravel spraying like a warning shot across the driveway. My instincts, honed through years of tactical entries and high-risk arrests, screamed one thing: move fast and don't miss. I saw her immediately. Karen stood near the gate, gripping Lily by the arm. Lily's face was streaked with tears. Her backpack lay discarded in the mud beside the mailbox. Buttercup barked frantically behind the fence, tail low, hackles raised. Karen was saying something to her, lips tight, voice sharp, but the words stopped cold when she saw me step out in uniform, badge gleaming, jaw locked. She let go of Lily, like she'd touched a live wire. My daughter bolted into my arms. "It's okay, sweetheart, I'm here." Karen tried to collect herself, smoothing her soaked blouse and lifting her chin as if the sudden arrival of law enforcement hadn't just shattered her delusion of authority. "I was enforcing a community protocol," she snapped. "She was in violation unattended, and you put your hands on my daughter," I said, voice low and even. "Explain that again." Slowly, Karen's eyes flicked to my badge. "Your weight. Your law enforcement. Detective, 1st grade. County jurisdiction. You're lucky I got here before backup," she stammered. I was just escorting her back to safety. She was wandering near the HOA trail unsupervised. "It's my duty to intervene when a child's at risk." "Risk of what?" sketching birds again, walking her dog. She doesn't belong here. Your family isn't part of the HOA. That trail is for residents only. I took a step forward, still holding Lily with one arm. This property is not under your authority. You were told that weeks ago, and now you've crossed into criminal territory. Karen opened her mouth, but I was already reaching into my pocket. Lily, I said gently, did you record what she said? She nodded and handed me her phone. Smart kid, I'd taught her well. I hit play. The audio came through clear. Karen's voice, sharp and condescending. Your daddy doesn't follow the rules. He doesn't belong here, and neither do you. I'm taking you to the HOA office so we can sort this out. My stomach churned. Lily had been terrified and Karen had spoken with the confidence of someone who truly believed she held power. I turned back to her, voice cold. That's custodial interference. Attempted unlawful detainment of a minor. Possibly more, depending on what the county attorney thinks. Karen's smug facade began to crack. You can't be serious. I've already got dispatch holding the call. You can explain it to the responding officers. She took a step back. This is a misunderstanding. She was in a restricted zone. I cut her off. The zone's not yours. The land rights have been verified. You don't own a single inch beyond your HOA's interior lots. Not the trail, not the hill, not my driveway. You've been trespassing, harassing, and now you've escalated to attempted abduction. Her lips quivered. She wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone with authority she couldn't manipulate, with board votes or fines. Within minutes, a county cruiser pulled up, red and blue lights cutting through the misty air. Officer Daniels stepped out, a young but sharp deputy I'd trained myself years ago. Evening, detective, he greeted, eyeing Karen. This the one? Yep, I said, handing over the phone. Audio evidence, child witness, and an attempted removal from private property. Karen looked ready to faint. Daniels guided her gently but firmly to sit on the curb while he called it in. Lily tucked in a blanket from the cruiser, sipped hot cocoa Daniels kept in a thermos for long shifts. I sat beside her, one arm over her shoulders. You did good, baby girl, I said. Really good. She looked up at me, confused. Why would she do that? I didn't do anything wrong. No, you didn't. But some people think rules make them powerful, and when they can't control something, they lash out. I looked across the driveway, where Karen sat pale and trembling, her clipboard forgotten on the wet ground. She forgot one thing, though, I added. Some of us write the real rules, and we don't play games with our kids. The deputy radioed for transport. Karen would be going in for questioning. It wouldn't end here, but the storm had begun. This wasn't just about one overzealous HOA president anymore. This was about the whole system behind her, and I was just getting it started. By morning, Karen Drummond was out on bail and already clawing her way back into power. I knew it wouldn't take long. People like her didn't wilt under the law. They regrouped, reframed, retaliated, and sure enough, the retaliation began. Subtly, anonymous complaints were filed with Child Protective Services. A drone buzzed over our pasture at dusk. An envelope appeared on my gate, no return address, stuffed with printed photos of Lily and me around town, watching, waiting, intimidating. But it wasn't just about us anymore. Karen had woken something bigger than her HOA seat, a force she didn't understand. Because when you tug on the wrong thread in a town like ours, you don't just unravel one neighbor. You pull apart the entire pattern. So I started pulling, and what I found was far worse than harassment. It started with a visit to the county clerk's office. I wanted every document tied to Rosewood Bluffs HOA board meeting minutes, complaints, liens, violations, everything. I went in as a civilian, no badge, just curiosity backed by quiet rage. What I discovered: Karen's HOA wasn't just a neighborhood club. It was an empire. Over the last 3 years, she'd weaponized the association. She'll find residents into submission, rewrote bylaws to consolidate power, and issued over 300 infractions, most targeting families with children, retirees, and minorities. Worse still, her so-called security committee had been acting like a privatized enforcement team. They weren't police. They had no legal standing. But Karen trained them to intimidate. One letter even suggested they escort repeat violators to the clubhouse for intervention. They were dragging people into rooms and threatening them with liens, evictions, and HOA court. And she tried to do that to my daughter. No, this wasn't just about revenge now. This was about justice. I compiled the files, built a dossier, names, dates, audio clips, a digital folder stuffed with tyranny wrapped in beige. Then I made my move. The next HOA board meeting was set for Thursday evening at the Rosewood Bluffs clubhouse, a gaudy brick building that looked like a country club but smelled like printer ink and self-importance. I didn't RSVP. I just showed up. In uniform, Karen was already inside, presiding like a queen behind a folding table stacked with paperwork. A projector hummed behind her, illuminating graphs that meant nothing. She spotted me as I walked in. The room fell silent. Detective Carter, she said, attempting a smile. This is a closed session for homeowners. I'm aware, I replied, lifting a stack of binders. But some of your homeowners asked for help. I dropped the binders on the table with a thud. Karen flinched. These documents show systematic abuse of power, falsified violations, intimidation tactics, harassment, and what appears to be a slush fund disguised as security fees. Gasps rippled across the room. One elderly couple near the front whispered frantically to each other. A young mother clutched her purse tighter. Karen's eyes darted to her board members. They looked pale. Fractures forming. You have no jurisdiction over this board, she snapped, panic seeping through her polished exterior. But the county does, I said calmly, and the district attorney's office has already opened an inquiry. These homeowners deserve to know what's being done in their name. One man stood up in the back, broad-shouldered, eyes fierce. I got fined $600 for my nephew's bike being left out for an hour, he growled. She threatened to put a lien on my house. Another voice. She told me I couldn't fly a flag for my son in the military, said it wasn't uniform to the aesthetic. It was like a dam broke. Testimonies flooded the room. Fear gave way to fury. For the first time, Karen wasn't holding the microphone. She was being buried by it. I waited until the room quieted, then placed one final document on the table. A printed complaint from Lily, handwritten in careful, pink pen detailing the day Karen tried to take her away. This is what she tried to silence, I said softly. A child, scared and alone, being dragged by someone with no right to touch her. Karen looked like a statue, cold, stiff, eyes hollow. I've seen a lot in my years, I continued, but I've never seen someone twist neighborly rules into a personal regime. That ends tonight. Silence, then slow, steady applause. It grew row by row, until even the board members were clapping, some sheepishly, others with relief. Karen said nothing. She didn't need to. The empire was crumbling. Karen Drummond didn't resign. She was voted out. 2 weeks after the HOA board meeting turned into a public reckoning, the residents of Rosewood Bluffs gathered in record numbers to hold a special election. Nearly every home in the association was represented. It was the first time many of them had seen each other outside of angry emails and warning notices. Strangers became allies. Neighbors became witnesses. Karen showed up late to the meeting wearing her trademark beige suit and a forced smile. She looked thinner, smaller, like the power had been keeping her inflated all along. She tried to speak, tried to defend her strict but necessary methods, but no one wanted to hear it. Not after the depositions, the testimonies, the county's formal audit that confirmed misuse of funds, fabricated infractions, and illegal intimidation policies. Her so-called security committee was quietly disbanded under legal threat. At least one of her enforcers had already flipped, providing full statements in exchange for immunity. She lost the vote 123-4. I didn't gloat. I didn't even attend the vote. My job was done. Lily and I spent that afternoon on the hill behind our ranch, watching the breeze ripple through the tall grass. Buttercup lay beside her, tail thumping lazily. She turned to me as the sun dipped low. So, is she gone for good? I paused. She's gone from the HOA, but people like that don't disappear. They wait, they watch, and sometimes they come back louder. She frowned. Then what do we do? I smiled, brushing a leaf from her hair. We stay kind, we stay strong, and we stay ready. That's when she handed me something from her pocket, a small folded paper. Her latest sketch, me standing in front of our gate, badge on my hip, hand on her shoulder. Behind us, the house stood tall. The dog was barking in the corner. And above us both, in big block letters, she had written, "Real Protector." I swallowed hard. Sometimes the badge didn't feel like much, but to her, it was everything. The next week, I returned to the ranch gate after a long shift and noticed something different. No notes, no zip ties, no plastic warning signs. For the first time in weeks, the entrance was clean. Even the HOA's usual patrol SUV hadn't made its daily pass. Instead, there was a small mason jar sitting atop the gate post. Inside was a folded note and a bundle of wildflowers fresh picked. The note read, "Thank you for standing up for all of us, for being the one who didn't look away. Your grateful neighbors." I stared at it for a long moment before tucking it under my arm and walking inside. Not long after that, things in Rosewood Bluffs began to shift. Fences were mended, not just physically but emotionally. The new board of 3 moms, 2 veterans, and 1 retired schoolteacher rolled back dozens of arbitrary rules. They held open Q&A sessions. They posted meeting notes publicly. One even started a potluck series on weekends. People were smiling again. Kids rode bikes down the trail without being stopped. Flags of all kinds flew proudly on porches, and Lily, she started a trail watch club, complete with walkie-talkies and hand-drawn badges for her and 3 friends. "I'm the president now," she told me one night, proudly adjusting her paper hat. "But I'm not going to be a Karen." I laughed harder than I had in months. As for Karen Drummond, last I heard, she moved across town, bought a condo in a gated community with strict enforcement rules already built in. No power to seize, no boards to control, just beige walls and silence. Fitting, but I wasn't interested in tracking her anymore. My fight wasn't with one woman, it was with a system that allowed her to thrive unchecked. That system had been rattled and I'd made sure it wouldn't. rebuilt so easily. One evening, I stood at the edge of our pasture, watching Lily and her friends build a fort from old hay bales. Laughter echoed across the field. The air was clean, light, free. And in that moment I knew something important. Sometimes the most dangerous kind of tyranny doesn't come from a throne or a courtroom. It comes with a clipboard and a smile. But as long as there are people willing to stand up, bad or not, there will always be hope. Always a way to push back. Always a way home.